Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Open Space Committee. I'm a different face here, but I've been, I guess, promoted to be the chair of our committee. And I guess to start off, I'll just do introductions. Lev Malikoff from Centerville.
Elisa Crowley from Barnstable.
Barley Lewis, Hyannisport.
Tracy Pratt, Katuitt.
Ann Rowland, Centerville.
Doug Payson, Barnstable Village.
Jenna Zeno, Administrative Assistant.
Okay, and we do have a couple honored guests that we'll introduce in a moment. And we have one more member.
Lewis.
And then I just wanted at this point to take a moment to recognize and honor our former chair, Ann Kennedy, who put in many years of diligent service on behalf of the town. And we do have a proclamation that Farley has written that I think will be wonderful to read into our record.
Okay. Just as a matter of procedure, usually you have to go through this whole process of this meeting will be televised.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I skip that over, there is an announcement that I meant to read. This meeting of the Open Space Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Mass General laws, I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Okay.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Okay. An Open Space Committee proclamation. Whereas Ann Kennedy envisioned the need for the town of Barnstable to have a committee for specifically identifying land parcels for open space and drinking water protection. And whereas Ann Kennedy's vision became a reality in 2005 with the formation of the Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee. And whereas Ann Kennedy has been a dedicated proponent of open space and the Pathways program in the town of Barnstable throughout her tenure as a member and chair of the newly renamed Open Space Committee. And whereas Ann Kennedy has been invaluable in shepherding the CRs and open space and recreation plan through the complex labyrinth of legal and procedural processes, all the while keeping a sharp lookout over the Suet Pond Preserve. And whereas Ann Kennedy has kept the Open Space Committee alive and thriving for almost 20 years, and whereas Ann Kennedy can never be replaced and will be much missed by all who have served with her. Therefore, we do exclaim, bravo, Ann, and so many thank yous.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Farley. In the interest of making best use of our guests' time, I want to move the minutes to follow their presentations and discussion items. So let's start with Mark Robinson of the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trusts, here to discuss Smith's Creek Conservation Restriction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark Robinson, the Executive Director of the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust. And I'm here tonight to seek your recommendation to the Town Council and Town Manager for the conservation restriction that would be required to preserve this 5.5 acre property in West Barnstable on Main Street, 452 Main Street. Is that the right address? I forget. I don't have it here with me. In any case, so this is a property that straddles or runs along the side of what's called Smith's Creek on the survey plan. There's another Smith's Creek that shows on the topographic maps. I'm going with Smith's Creek, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, because that's what the surveyor said. So otherwise, it's an unnamed creek, and so we're going to call it the Smith's Creek. Smith's Creek is a tributary to the Great Marsh. It's of interest to the Arundel Wildlife Land Trust in particular because Smith's Creek is the other side of Smith's Creek on Meadow Lane is where Arenda has a lot of its property, including its turtle garden, so-called, where the diamondback terrapins nest, at the far end of Meadow Lane. And there was another successful nesting season there. In any case, this property was brought to our attention by a family member over a year ago. And since that time, we've negotiated a bargain sale of the property for $400,000. We have applied to the state for a conservation partnership grant, which was awarded this fall for $200,000. We're asking the Community Preservation Committee for a recommendation, which they've given now to the Town Council for $100,000. And we're fundraising the last $100,000 of the purchase price. So because of the state grant involved, as well as the CPA funds from the town, a conservation restriction is required, and so the idea is to have the land owned by the Arunda Wildlife Land Trust, subject to the conservation restriction running to the town. And the town typically has sought to have a third-party conservation group be in charge of monitoring the conservation restriction, and so the compact is willing to serve as a co-grantee in this case to provide that monitoring of the property on an annual basis, as we do for more than 60 other properties owned by land trusts around the Cape. So that's the proposal. I'm happy to answer questions.
Is this the property, Arunda owns, isn't it Smith's Dock?
At the end of Meadow Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this,
This is not on Meadow Lane.
Lane.
It's the creek to the east of
Okay.
Meadow Lane.
because
It
I
comes
see,
down
I
to
see
the end of
Emma
the turtle garden.
Davidson, and Anna Davidson, didn't she own property on Meadow Lane too?
Who's this?
Anna Davidson,
I don't know.
okay.
This land comes from the Hinkleys. Bonnie Hinckley was a friend of Barbara Birdsee's and wanted to make
Okay.
sure that Arunda had a crack at it. So.
Okay. I was thinking of that, okay.
I have a question on the public access. This states that Arunda will allow public access but not develop a formal trail system. And I understand it's very sensitive land in there, but what would the public access be I went over and walked part of it, and there are hunting stands in there, and it looks like there's pretty heavy, people are after the deer in there. So what kind of access will there be there?
Yeah, so as we've stated in both the state grant and in discussions with the Community Preservation Committee, this property cannot have a parking area because it just logistically is impossible with the shoulder dropping off from Route 6A down toward the wetland. And in fact, the mission of Arunda is to provide wildlife sanctuaries, not to create public walking trails. So the property is open to the public. It's required by the use of this town and state funds, but we're not going to develop it for trails. There's one hunting stand and a small blind on the property that are unauthorized uses on the private property. Those will be removed with the help of the town natural resource department, which has been very helpful to Arunda in the past in removing hunting stands from the wildlife sanctuaries. So that would happen in this case as well. There's loads of places to walk in West Barnstable. This property has got a lot of wetland and sensitive stream bank, and it's not appropriate. It wouldn't really go anywhere, frankly. So.
Yeah, just thinking as part of the whole area, I know there's a parcel next to it that, maybe some synergy in the future. But I guess that can be down the road.
Yeah.
It is not precluding something at this point. Just
Right.
there's no plans at this point.
No, I mean, the conservation restriction would enable Arunda to work on trails if and that becomes useful and practical and appropriate in the future.
Right.
But we're not starting out with that assumption.
Thank you.
timing on, you would like an action tonight?
So we have a closing scheduled for next, on or before the end of June 2025. And that's required by the timing of the state grant, has to close before then. What we'd like to have tonight is to keep the conservation restriction moving, and so that would be a positive recommendation from this board. The town council and the town manager are the entities in the town that sign the restriction, but we'd be looking for a recommendation from you to them.
Do people feel like somebody can make a motion?
I will.
Yep, I move that we create a letter of support for this acquisition by Orinda Wildlife Land Trust for Smiths Creek Land Protection Project.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Okay.
And just for the record, I see up there, it's 564 Main Street. Not good remembering numbers, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mark. We have with us our town planner, Jim Kupfer. I hope I'm saying it right. And
Okay over here?
yeah,
Get in there with everybody.
welcome. And Jim is going to talk to us a little bit about the pending update or that we need to be looking at for the open space recreation plan, which was last, I guess, authorized in 2018, and it's going to expire next year at some point.
Right.
Take it away, Jim.
Excellent, thank you. So Jim Kupfer, Director of Planning. I know some of you, but hello to those that I have not met yet. So as the chairman mentioned, our open space and recreation plan update is already in need of update. Every 7 years, the state requires an update of the plan. Ours would expire this summer. Not ideal timing. It would be nice to have a little bit more time. We do have a local comprehensive plan that is currently being updated, and it would be great to have a little bit of synergy there, and I can talk a little bit about that as well with this group. Where we are right now is we do have an active open space and rec plan. We do need an update, and really the discussion that I was hoping to have this evening, and we can continue this discussion to a subsequent meeting, is the extent of which we want to really focus that update. The Open Space Committee historically has played a role in guiding the update along with the Planning Department, and so this handout here on the back side is guidance from the state. The state suggests that certain sections should be updated and certain sections must be updated each and every update of the plan. So the column there must be revised. The middle column is something we would want to take a close look at to see if we may want to revise it. And then some of the practical common sense things that wouldn't change don't need to be updated. We can take this and update the plan from a kind of contextual standpoint, data-driven standpoint, and just kind of lift that up and seek approval from the state, or we could take a real deep dive into the plan and update the open space plan. As I mentioned, though, timing is a little bit not on our side in that we need to have this updated by the end of the summer to continue on to stay active, though a little gap may not be the biggest deal from the state size. So really, that's the first question. And then the other item that I was, wanted to mention was that with this update, Again, we have the local comprehensive plan actively being updated as well, and that has the natural resource section. That's something that the committee would like to bring to this committee for your guidance. And there's a lot of synergy between the two plans. So, again, we could utilize a lot of the facts, data, and outreach that has already been done to help provide an update of the open space plan. But, I'm really looking for some guidance here from our committee, you all, as to the depth we want to dive into. Really what that means is if we want to have a deep dive, we need to revise our scope accordingly. We need to likely put out an RFP for a consultant, and we also need a little bit of funding for a consultant, which there's grant opportunities out there as well as CPA funds potentially out there. So that's the bare bones of it. Any questions? How active does this group kind of use the open space plan? And, do you guys see that as a good guiding document now, or should we be really thinking about a wholesale amendment of the plan? I know that's a lot there.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you have been in the
We have.
the steep when it was produced, so maybe you have some perspective.
Right.
Chris.
Right,
Chris.
Chris is going to be
Chris, do you
able
wanna-
to help you the most.
Thank you. And yes, I know that it needs some updating, but I think we probably should look at the action plan, I think it's section 9, and just do an inventory on what has been done and what was not yet done. I know when it was done, I think we started it in 2016. It was finally dated 2018 when it was done, but there were many errors in it in what was the final, or supposedly the final version, but that's been reconciled. I defer to the committee. I have heard loud and clear liaisons are not supposed to be driving committee work, although you're right, I was involved, and quite frankly was one of the reasons why I stepped up to be a counselor, is the work that was done on open space. But what might be helpful is, as Jim noted, that the local comprehensive plan is being worked on at the same time, so some of that might be redundant information when it comes to natural resource section and how it relates to the open space and recreation plan. I think that it would be staff's responsibility to update all the data, how much land was in conservation restrictions and how much has been acquired, or any changes to the inventory. And I think that's about it.
I mean, I'm just looking at the environmental inventory and analysis, and I just like the water resources and things, landscape character, and, fisheries and wildlife and scenic resources and unique. I mean, I think those should be in the must-be revised, considering what we've been through with all the planning and everything that's been going on. It needs more accounting.
Especially the environmental changes.
Yeah.
Challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I agree with Chris in that respect that the follow-up on this is really critical. It's fine to make all these recommendations and observations, but where does that go?
Right.
Yeah, I have a physical copy, which apparently everybody that would like one could get one. So
Right.
maybe let me ask for a show of hands. Does anybody want a physical copy so we don't print extra copies? So one for Tracy?
We can look at it online.
Yeah, you can look at it online.
Online.
It depends on your style of, flipping through things at the breakfast table or.
I do agree with Chris at taking
Okay.
a look at what goals have been achieved and what are yet to be achieved, and take stock of that. And like Farley said, it seems like, we do all these studies and then they sit. so.
I just noticed flipping through there, I think comments from you, you had those questions asked. You know, how do we implement? I don't know if you ever got an answer, because that's not showing up in there, but
Yeah.
I'd be curious.
Yeah.
To be fair, when this was, when the 2018 Open Space and Recreation Plan was in the works, that was 2 Barnstable town planners ago.
Yeah,
So that
yeah, that's right.
the leadership on, or the tip of the spear on making this happen has changed, so,
And then didn't it go to the state or something at one
So it
point,
must-
too?
yeah, it must go
so there
ultimately
was all
for
this
certification.
lagging,
Yeah.
Yeah, part to it, so it must be frustrating for someone like you, too, so.
Yeah, so what I could offer perhaps is maybe by the next meeting, I'll work with Lev perhaps if we can achieve that timeline. We could have an in-depth review of the action plan to see where we stand, what has been achieved, what hasn't been achieved, and from a staff perspective, and then kind of highlight all the items that we know must be updated. And then maybe we could work together on developing out just generally kind of the scope we're looking for. That could help give staff some direction as to, you know, are we talking about doing it internally? Or are we talking about going out and get a consultant? Or are we talking about getting a consultant that's going to take 2 years potentially to redraft? That it's going to depend on what the magnitude of the scope is going to be to develop out, you know, how we're going to achieve this. So I could certainly do that, hopefully by the December meeting, if that is fine with this group.
Okay.
The other item, if I may, real quick, Lev?
Sure.
Is just the local comprehensive plan. So I touched on that a few times. So, yeah, it's somewhat unfortunate timing that we're updating the open space plan now, because there's a lot of good work going into the local comprehensive plan, and specifically the natural resources chapter. We brought in individuals and discussed with people like Mark Robinson about, you know, the needs or the needs and impacts of our open space and our natural resources. And so an update on that process is we are completing the first kind of draft of the full local comprehensive plan. You guys may have followed. I know, Doug, you've been at a number of our meetings where we've gone over things like our vision and our strategy and goals, but it's all been kind of pieces of the puzzle, and we've never really had the full plan. So we're actively working on trying to get that together for the public's consumption. And that's hopefully in the January timeframe that we'll be able, after the holidays, we'll be able to go back out to all the different villages and different stakeholders and review the different chapters. And one of which is well within your guys' purview, is the natural resources chapter. So I was hoping at a subsequent meeting to come back and have a discussion on that chapter and get your guys' insight. And I'll certainly be able to provide that to you guys well in advance, so we could potentially have a good conversation about that if that works for everybody.
Jim, I have a question on where would ecological restoration fit into this plan? A number of our properties that when purchased were open field, which is a really important habitat here that we're losing. And because of the rapid growth of invasive plants, and I'm particularly thinking about the Treasure Trail, I'm in the Master Gardener program, and I just had 35 Master Gardeners go out and walk the Treasure Trail with our Barnstable County Extension agent, identifying the invasive plants. And people were depressed afterwards that essentially that lands that were open are no longer open. And there's a number of, just with ecological succession, there's a number of these properties that we're going to just a woodland environment that doesn't have a lot of value for both rare plants and rare animals.
Yeah, and the local comprehensive plan, the natural resources chapter is absolutely the correct chapter for that. Brought in Nina Coleman for a discussion of a lot of what you're talking about, maybe not to that specificity, but and she's helped guide us and talk to the right people about what are the needs and the issues in our community. So that's certainly one that when the draft goes out, those are the things we want to hear is, if we're missing something, we want to have our, experts in the community highlighting that. So that will definitely be something we would be interested in hearing from you on.
Another issue would be connecting our open spaces so that they're accessible both from bicycles and pedestrians. To me, it's a somewhat dated model to have people drive to a conservation area to then go walking and then get back in their car. Looking at moving towards coordinating, particularly, I know you folks are working on the rail trail extension and how that's going to play in, and then also making connections. That's the highway. Right. The connections to the rail trail.
Yep, absolutely. That's a great point, and that could fit in many different locations in the plan. I mean, our transportation section highlights a lot about multimodal transportation and talks about the rail trail and connectivity. And you're right, not just to the side streets, or not just to driving to a trail and getting out, but we're thinking, in the reverse, if you're on the rail trail and you want, or if you're coming to, say, using the Cape Flyer, for instance, you come all the way from Boston, you get dumped off at the train station, and now what? We're trying to make that connection so you could get to the rail trail, perhaps, and then you could get to maybe all the individual trails from there. Trying to put all those pieces together. It takes a while, but it's definitely something we need to be, prioritizing. Absolutely.
There's also the issue that I spoke with your predecessor about, and that's using that rail trail for economic development. Yeah. If you go down to Orleans and you see the Hot Chocolate Sparrow and the people coming off of that rail trail, it's a real economic opportunity in a community that's very stressed at that level. I mean, we're building apartment buildings that are a mile away from any kinds of services. Maybe the idea of creating a little village center with a place where people can get, bottled water, food, sandwiches, or food truck pads. I was just at the walkway on the Hudson in the Hudson River Valley, and before you go over the 1.25-mile bridge over the Hudson River, there's a whole area for food trucks, and people come from the surrounding community there also.
That's interesting.
I took pictures of it. I could send it to you. I thought it was fascinating that because it was in the middle of nowhere, the bike path went from New Paltz to the river, and that's where they had all the food truck pads.
Yeah. And we have a huge opportunity as Barnstable. I mean, it's coming from Sandwich, it's coming from Yarmouth, it's coming into Barnstable, and then it has to cross over 132 at some point. So, I mean, that's an area where we can make those spur connections to all the different restaurants that we offer here. So.
Or even just getting them over to the Burger King and the.
That's a simple
it's not.
Dining.
No, but if someone needs water or.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah.
And you can get on the bus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the buses are there. That's another issue, is that whole cultural campus in West Barnstable and making pedestrian and bike connections there. It's not real. If I walk from, which I do sometimes, from where I live at Barnstable Harbor and go all the way around the block, try to get across where 132 meets Route 6A safely as a pedestrian. It's very difficult.
Speaking of,
They are working on, making the sidewalk better. I mean, it's in the planning stage, from what Gordon told me.
right, but I'll put in a plug. Jim Kupfer is going to speak to the boards of both the West Barnstable Civic Association and the Barnstable Village Association on November 12th at 7 o'clock at the West Barnstable Community Building about that very, what do you call it, a cultural,
Yep, yeah, the general area there with the
Activity
cultural center,
center.
yeah, activity center, Cape Cod Community College, et cetera. So yeah, we've heard that loud and clear. I received this committee's letter. Many people have also stated, similarly that whole area needs a real relook and how.
comprehensive look.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, particularly if they're going to dramatically expand the commuter parking lot.
Yeah.
It just it's more traffic and less safe for pedestrians and cyclists.
And the college is also developing their own strategic plan, to my understanding. So this would be good timing to make sure we have a bead on their expectations, and we can dovetail it into how it works best in that community
No,
for
it's-
safety and
Yeah.
accommodations for the public.
Does the college allow overflow parking if you can't get a space at the bus station? Do they have a problem if you park down by the tennis courts or anything like that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. To my knowledge, I
I don't think
anybody's
they've got to
monitoring.
that point
Yeah,
because it hasn't been, overloaded or abused.
Yeah.
But I know that
Well, it was-
people do park in their lot
Yeah.
and use the informal trail that goes over to Burger King.
Burger King, yeah.
But that's not a real great crossing point. You're right by the ramp.
I know, but, if you can't find a spot to
So,
park for us.
We've talked about making that a safer crossing, but
Right.
it would be mass DOT involved and, but,
But those are issues we could be raising at this time and formalize it for presentation to not only the town, but the state and the college.
So, while you're here, just, back in my mind, the disconnect between what we plan and what we do. Finney's Lane was all reconstructed, but then the sidewalk was never added, even though there's a lot of people living there, walking there, going, to the businesses back and forth. So, it's just unfortunate because that was a major investment and a major opportunity.
And if I go to get my car serviced at Hyannis Honda, I walk home, and the people at Hyannis Honda think I'm crazy. It's only 4.5 miles. It's not that far, but
He's a walker.
Back to pick up your.
no, they come and pick me up.
You'd have to pick me up halfway back to the 4.5 miles.
Right.
A lot of people,
Car probably be done
and
before you
forth.
got home.
But those are those kinds of
Dogs and cars.
connectors where we have to be thinking about,
I know.
a dramatically larger population.
Very much so.
With how do we get people back and forth? The town has actually done a good job on sidewalks in a lot of the very outlying areas. That road, that Finney's Lane corridor, I mean, they have to be 1,000 houses that are between one end to the other because of all the streets that feed off of it, and those huge neighborhoods.
Well, it'd just be nice to be able to walk safely because, I'd like to be active too.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind for me to prod this along, Jim, what would be helpful for this committee to do between now and December if
Yeah,
you're coming back?
what do you
in
want us
December?
to do?
Yeah, so
Homework do we have?
Yeah, taking a look at the open space plan. I know you guys are very familiar with it, but just things that you see in there that are of a priority for you that you want to see either, things that maybe didn't get achieved that you are either wondering why or would like to see achieved, because that would likely raise to a higher level when we're talking about updating our action plan. And then, questions you may have on it. But really, I think the heavy lift, we'll take that heavy lift of highlighting all the different things that we know the state's going to require. So we're going to look at it from the lens of getting it certified from the state level. What are the data that they're going to require? What is the environmental analysis? What is the community outreach and engagement that's required? And so we'll bring that back to you in December. But yeah, taking a closer look at the open space plan and anything that you want to make sure is either updated or enhanced so that it makes its way into the next plan, I think would be extremely beneficial.
And if I can suggest, is there any way we can make the document shorter? I think it'll be more likely to be read if it's not so beefy. That's what one comment.
I would recommend an executive summary that included, all the actions and maybe enough introductory information that people can understand how you got to them. But then they could have the full plan if they really want to get the detail.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at for the local comprehensive plan too, is you got the full document that's going to be pretty weighty, but then an executive summary and even some like fact sheets that, because, we just, our attention span isn't what it was. So making sure that we have some smaller documents that people will really consume and and get it out there and active, so it's not just a plan sitting on a shelf.
Excellent.
And
Thank you.
I think the appendices weren't populated. I don't know if,
Oh, on the original plan?
on the website.
Oh, okay.
I think
Take a look at that.
they were around somewhere.
I actually asked Kate Maldonado about that. She said they're just separate documents, so they left the spaces in the appendices, but the appendices is a separate document.
Oh, I see.
So it's available right underneath the plan itself. You just have to click into them separately.
I see.
It's a little confusing.
Okay.
Maybe we can make it a little more
Clearer.
clearer.
Yeah, I think the document itself is a PDF. If you still have it, you could edit those pages to say, see the website for the appendices or something. Because right now you just see blank pages and
Yeah.
you say, where are the appendices?
Yeah, thanks, Jenna.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Nice
work.
It was a
meeting
pleasure
you.
to meet you all, and happy to come back anytime.
Okay, well, you're welcome to come back.
So rejoining our agenda already in progress, we have the approval of minutes. If anybody has any questions or comments, I would also entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 7th.
So moved.
You're so good.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Okay, let's now get to our fall walking weekend recap. So how'd it go, Farley?
Fabulous. No, I enjoyed your walk around
The mystery walk
the
or the other walk?
where the dog park is. Hathaway's, thank you. Well, plus we saw a juvenile bald eagle, right?
Yes.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really,
Yeah,
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 nice work.
That was good
yeah,
history.
yeah. He set it off just at the right time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how did people feel about attendance? And
Right.
it seemed like libraries did well on how they found out about the walking weekend.
Yep. So I didn't hear from BLT. Do you remember how many people, does anybody,
It was pretty crowded.
was it BLT?
Yes.
Yeah,
The one
okay.
at Eagle Pond. Yeah. They
Okay.
had a guest leader
Okay,
who was, how do I want to say, trying to bring a different way of taking a walk. It was slow and
Oh,
brought
mindful.
frames for you to look at, change your focus on what you're looking at.
yeah, more mindfulness kind of thing,
A
yeah.
little, he brought a little paint set or something like that. It was just a way of experiencing a walk a little differently. One thing that stayed with me, though, I was astounded that the place was mobbed with people walking around with baskets. And it was the weekend of the New England Mycological Convention.
Oh, they were all
Mushroom
mushrooming.
pickers all over the place. And I said,
Okay,
hey, I grew up picking mushrooms, but my grandfather said you always cut them and not yank them to maintain the rhizome culture
Yeah.
underground. And he said that's a fallacy, that they were experts. They were coming from Canada and all over to come to the New.
yanking out the mushrooms?
Yeah, their baskets were full of purple and pink and brown and
gosh.
white. So, and they were in teams. So I think at the convention, they must have given them maps of our open spaces. So there's another economic benefit for
Or coming to a
coming
conference,
to the.
Yeah,
mycology.
mushroom pickers.
No, that's a niche, definitely.
I see them in the woods
Geocaching was
every
a
once in a
thing.
while, and they're usually, if you ask them Russian.
Oh,
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Eastern Europeans.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
grew up Polish, and it
Yeah.
was a thing.
yeah.
Mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was, and it's culturally important.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. But yeah, that was a nice feature.
Cool. That's great.
That's wonderful.
So not only was it a busy group from the Barnstable Land Trust's outreach, but all of a sudden, like I said, people were passing us by with their
Baskets.
their flat-bottomed wicker baskets, and they were charging along. I'm like, hey, what's going on?
That's great.
That's funny.
And they all had badges, they had identifiers.
Interesting. Anything else, Farley?
We should be building a mushroom picking feature.
Yeah.
Because it was actually a good time of year. It had rained beforehand.
Or
and-
so it was
Right.
actually damp. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Well, maybe you should get the address for that group and send them the fall walking weekend
Yeah.
Yeah, keep them on
on
tabs.
the
Yeah.
database.
Or at least the Cape Cod chapter.
Doug, did you have your?
I think it was sort of modest turnout,
Yeah.
but it may have, I'm wondering if we should shift weekends, because Columbus Day weekend, so many people go away.
Yeah,
People who live here go up north,
yeah.
or go out to Western Mass, or, I think that maybe if we looked at the weekend before or the weekend after.
Get more of the hometown.
Yeah, we'd get more local people.
Okay.
I don't know. It may be also, it's very difficult in the Mid-Cape. We don't have much serious media anymore that, like, I was looking at the Falmouth Enterprise, and it still looks like a real newspaper, or the Cape Cod Chronicle in Chatham, or the Independent in Provincetown, and we don't have that here. It's
Yeah.
so as a result, that they don't really focus on, what we're doing.
Right, I mean, because the Patriot doesn't,
No.
do it, or does that even exist anymore? Is the Patriot?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lev?
Yeah, I think maybe that'll be our winter homework, is to come up with a media plan as best we can. I mean, I think the Patriot would help.
Yeah.
I don't know if they published anything, I wasn't looking. But they're, whatever avenues we have.
Do we always put it in the Barnstable, e-newsletter that comes out every Friday? Do we
Yes,
put
it was in the
that?
it was in the e-newsletter. I saw it, and I
Put
saw
it in
it
yours.
somewhere else
Send
in
it
one
to
of the
Gordon.
town broadcasts. I think Jenna sent it to me, that it was somewhere.
Printed, or you mean?
In electronically, in the town calendar.
Right,
It was somewhere, and we had,
Yeah.
and the brochures were down at when you walk in the main door. Yes, the brochures were there.
And then does Gordon Star or?
He put it in
Blue
the,
or
Chris
some of
had
the
it in
others?
her.
yeah, I sent it to Gordon.
Okay.
Yep,
But,
he
you know,
had
I
it.
don't think I have received more from you than I have from Gordon.
He's
Maybe
been
he doesn't have-
sporadic
yeah,
in
maybe he
sending
doesn't
stuff
have-
out.
But I've
Yeah.
sent him the information, so he has me.
The town's e-newsletter,
Yeah.
I think Lynn pointed out, put it in 3
Yes.
consecutive weekends.
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah, she had it.
We had a very generous blast
Yeah.
from the town.
I think that reaches a lot of people, that e-news.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, so maybe the weekend before would help. Seemed like the number of walks we had could have been fit into a regular weekend.
I know, we had a gap on Sunday for some
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah, we did. That was
which was
my goof.
Leader's
Oh.
choice. Yeah. Well, how did Sandy Neck go? Because that one.
Yeah,
I was the only person that went
Well,
on
it
the
was
Sandy
kind of a
Neck
crummy
Walk.
day.
It
yeah.
rained.
It cleared, though, by the time I got there, it wasn't
That's
raining.
the way.
And it was actually fun with
Yeah.
it was a young woman who, you know, it was a fun walk.
Good.
And she filled me in on there were 600 active northern diamondback
Wow.
terrapin nests on
Nice.
Sandy Neck
Oh, my
alone
word.
this year. So that was a
And how are
dramatic.
they doing with predators and things? Did she?
She showed me a number of places where predators had found the nests. They also do
The cage.
they also
Enclosures.
collect a certain number of hatchlings
Okay.
and give them to schools and
Yeah.
senior centers
Yeah.
and
I think the Wildlife Center gets some too.
yes, and they because they're
Audubon, I think, gets
at the size of a silver dollar, they're really easy for a great blue heron to just keep picking them. So they raise them out to the large enough that it's not easy to be eaten.
So we did have a good turnout for the geocaching walk.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's like more than a dozen or so.
Oh, that's good.
But it seemed that they were all experienced. So they have their own social media, and that's how they all, they put the flyer up on those social
Right.
media as well. So they knew what was going on, what Walking Weekend was about. I was hoping there'd be some outsider intro people. So maybe that'll be something that we'll pick up in the spring if we have that. I did at least get to talk to some of the experts, since we're going to have Grace Rogers next month on the pathways topic, but she's had put together the guidelines for geocaching.
Oh, good.
That there's maybe only one item in there that seemed like it might be a little problematic for geocaching people. The guideline says that the object should be hidden within 5 feet of the trail. There's very uncommon for that to be the case because you don't want regular people recognizing, seeing something, throwing it away, taking it, they don't know what it is. Yeah. So about 20 feet might be a good compromise that, at least you're away or behind a tree or something that people just walking down a trail won't see the cache.
That definitely should be discussed.
Yeah, so that's something that
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have a discussion with Grace. And then I think the guidelines are pretty close to being well done. So
Good.
a lot of it is the common sense stuff that when I talked to the geocaching community, they said, yeah, these are the things we already do. As far as we don't damage, we don't cut, we don't, destroy anything because we want everything to look natural.
Thank you, Lou. Do you think, can you reach out to that geocaching community to see if they can come to see that presentation, have their input?
I could. I don't know if Grace is planning to do a presentation. She's coming to talk about pathways.
Oh,
So at some point, maybe we'll want to have more involvement in that, have them be
well,
involved.
Yeah,
before they're
something for the
finalized.
future. I have to say personally, I enjoyed Fall Walking Weekend immensely. I went on 4 walks, and they were just outstanding, every single one. So, and I learned things, and I enjoyed the people I was with, and the whole 9 yards. I mean, you did a great village loop walk, and I learned all about invasive plants. That was fabulous, So I was, and I really like the Marston's Mills River Headwaters Restoration Walk. That was really very informative. And and the Meeting House Farm was really pleasant. I thought, those are great people working on that project. Really good, very committed to and making great progress with the property. I was just very impressed. So it's good. So.
All right, thank you. So we have the old business items. If there's any updates, I'll go one by one. Centerville Cranberry Bog, is there any?
No change.
No change. Comiquid Woods, looks like, usually Marie will
Yeah,
stop by
Marie's
if she has something to share.
So,
I guess the news is she had applied for the position, but then got a determination from, I know from
Ethics.
state ethics that, because she's part of the nonprofit, that would be coming before us,
be a
that they
conflict.
recommended that she withdrew her application, so. We do have a person applied, so I'll let that go through the process, and we can talk a little bit more on how that goes.
Great.
I don't have any update on CRs. The Pathways update, as I mentioned, Grace and I believe maybe someone from Barnstable Land Trust might be here next month, right? And so she did just today pass on the 2003 Cape Cod Pathways plan for Barnstable. So I thought that it's going to be a pretty interesting read to look at what was proposed and discussed in those days. A lot of it, I think, still applies. I think I'll ask her, or if you can ask her, were there any maps that went with that? Because a lot of it describes things that would be easier probably for us to, just because they're describing things that look like they might be on maps. So those, and the other thing that I'm going to invite a member of the New England Mountain Bike Association, Dave Lafreniere, who's been instrumental in developing a trail reporting system for all of Cape Cod, so including Barnstable. So when people see a problem when they're out and about, they can take a picture, they can put in a report, and then the land managers can, back in their office, pull up the reports and say, oh, I see there's a tree down across the trail, or there's some other problem. So he'll be able to, show folks how that works, and having Grace here is going to be great because she's the asset manager of the town. So it'll be opportunity to share that with her, because I don't know if Barnstable has a trail reporting system. I haven't heard of one. At least it's not known to the public. But this is more of a crowdsourced thing, so anybody with the app can report a problem. I was out in one of our informal walks at Bridge Creek. We saw, there's a board missing on one of the bridges where there's a nail sticking out that, could shred your knee if you're not paying attention. And another segment of the trail at the end is almost impassable. So that's been put in the reports, and then we can look at it on the monitor.
So what is the app, or what is it that you're using?
They're using Trail Forks, which is it's a trail app if you're a
Okay.
walker or a biker.
Okay. Trail Force?
Trail Forks, like fork in the road.
Oh, Forks, Trail
Trail
Forks. Okay. All right.
So there's a free app if you want to get ahead of the curve and
Yeah.
load that up and look at that. You could become one of the reporters if you see a problem. Yeah.
Lev, I read in the message from Grace Rogers today that the town and the land trust will be splitting a AmeriCorps person.
Yes. Yeah.
That was in that message.
Yeah.
That's really great news.
So I'd be interested to see how they'll be able to serve the interests.
We have jobs for them.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
Lev, if I may?
yes.
Perhaps you could ask the town manager that if there is, because of this reporting system, to whom would someone in Barnstable report? So I'm just saying that it's one thing to hear from your NIMBA volunteer on how to identify a problem in the field, but we should have some understanding on how we deliver that message to the town staff. Is Grace going to be the point person, or just
Yeah.
discuss?
Well, I think that'll be part of, the education. It's open source, so anybody can look at it.
Because you can call the conservation director or agent.
Yeah.
You can call somebody from recreation. I'm just saying that someone not knowing how to report a problem would know where to deliver the information.
Oh, if you were a member of the public reporting the problem,
Yes.
all you're doing is reporting the problem. You don't need to know the next step. The
Goes.
next step is up to the land managers if they care. In
To
a case of,
monitor
say,
that app?
Yeah.
To monitor that app?
if they want to, they can monitor it if they wish. It's just information, and it's being used by different entities in different ways.
I think the difficulty, and this is something maybe we want to discuss in the plan, is that depending on whose jurisdiction a property falls under, it's a different person.
Exactly.
I'm involved, and I don't know on each individual parcel. For example, on the Treasure Trail, I think you go through 3 different jurisdictions
Sure.
walking on that short trail, and it's 3 different staff people that handles that. That's a little crazy. There should be one person that handles all of, but then it also, because it might pass through fire district land or
Well, wasn't there,
state land.
I'm trying to remember whether we had this discussion before, and there was a thought of having Grace sort of be the point person, and then she could just say, oh, well, that is BLT, or that's somebody else. And
Yeah.
is that what you remember?
I remember
That's what we're
that.
hoping.
At
Yeah.
one point, we were reporting to DPW,
Yeah.
weren't we?
Right, but,
Directly, or?
yeah, but that was,
But I don't think it worked.
yeah.
I don't think anything has worked, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
I mean,
Everybody has like, oh, well, that's not me. Well,
Fiefdoms.
Yeah, or they, somebody
I think if there's a concern that was raised with the conservation staff, they would put in a work order or request to DPW. So they don't have a field staff and the equipment,
Oh, that
but they
makes sense, yeah.
request it.
Okay.
So I think that would be, that's one avenue, but you're right. There's state managers, there's Barnstable Land Trust property managers, and I know there's concern for liability should anybody want to
Yeah.
fix it themselves.
It seemed, yeah, I mean, it would be nice if you have one person who could just filter it and say, this is not a town issue, this belongs to some private
Sure.
group. I mean, and pass it on, rather than to have to jump around and say, oh, okay, DPW, oh, no, conservation, oh, I mean, it's
Land bank.
land bank, no. Land bank, no.
So
It does, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what parcel you're really on.
Right.
That's another thing.
Well, the thing is, there's not even any contact information, perhaps on the Open Space Committee's website, or webpage. There can be, to report a problem, click here.
It just,
There's a report a problem with DPW, if you go on their webpage. So if there's a trail-related, maybe that we have to be more specific, but you'd have to request that, but line it up ahead of time to have a responsible party agree to monitor those messages.
Great theory.
great theory, yeah.
We can add that to our action items in the
Yeah,
Okay,
open space
yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Those are the kinds of practical solutions.
That we bring forward.
okay, thanks. Tracy, do you have anything with Centuit?
It's very, very dry out there, and water levels are down everywhere. Hunting season is starting. I think there might be bow hunters out there now. There were a couple of guys living rough out in the woods for a couple of years. I went through their camp a couple of days ago, and they were gone. I don't know if Mashpee, it was on the Mashpee side. I don't know if Dan Kent got rid of them or what, but they left, and they'd left a lot of their gear and their garbage there, unfortunately, so it's got to get cleaned up. That's about it.
Is the pond low also?
Oh, yeah, very low. Very low.
Okay. Farley, do you have anything from Community Preservation Committee?
Okay, project updates. Oakmont Road, they hope to fundraise through the compact to, I'm not sure, do what they're going to hope to achieve, but perhaps purchase a parcel. Okay, so state grants have been awarded to 2 Barnstable projects, partially funded by CPA. Open space funds, the Smith Creek acquisition is getting $200,000, and Santuit Woodlands acquisition is receiving $295,000 going to Barnstable Land Trust, and they should be both closing soon, although there's a delay in getting the money, so whatever that means. That's as far as I know.
Any questions?
Yeah.
That was the property up by Route 28?
Yes. Putnam Road, yep. Oh, oh.
And you don't know what the delay is about?
Don't, no,
Okay.
so.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
That's the, report from Chris Clark. And here you are.
There she
Other
is.
than, I was,
I know you've been back and forth with,
although I'm happy that our walking weekends have got a little traction. And honestly, I'm not disappointed when there's a smaller group. I think that just, how do I want to say? Helping to advertise that these are opportunities for people to do on their own. If they might not necessarily want a guided walk, but it gives an opportunity for people who are not that familiar to have a walk leader in parts of our open spaces that of which they may be unfamiliar. I also heard from the town attorney, who is aware that we're looking for some guidance over Chapter 61A and B acquisitions. And it hasn't risen to a priority that we keep, and I understand she and her staff keep having more urgent priorities with some of the things in town that have required executive sessions for the town council and a lot of freedom of information requests, along with some of the legal challenges that are brought up over wind power and the Avangrid's proposals coming through on the south part of our town. So, anyways, she told me she's aware of of looking for some kind of guidance on the town's policy on addressing Chapter 61A and B properties. It has yet to be done, but to be done. And that's about it.
Chris, do we know how many 61A and 61B properties there are in town?
We do, and it's in the appendices, I believe, of the open space plan.
Okay.
I know that they've been documented. So, and there are not that many.
is that as of 2018, or is that as
Yes.
currently?
No, that's
Okay.
it's 2018. So it's not hard to find.
Any movement on the Burke
property?
Okay,
No, actually, the property's not for sale anymore.
okay.
Which property?
Liz just asked for the
The
Burke
Burke
property in
property.
West Barnstable, which was adjacent to the Bridge Creek
Yeah.
Conservation Area. So the town has a plan to drill for municipal water there. And they got permission from the Conservation Department, or Conservation Commission, to do a second round of testing, and the West Barnstable Water Commissioners filed a RDA, and after that, the town withdrew its proposal. At this time, I don't think it's withdrawn forever, but the case was made that there are wetlands and intermittent streams that would have to be traversed and affected, or expected to be affected. So at this time, it is not happening.
Okay.
So the pressure to augment that parcel with the Burke's property isn't there anymore. That
Oh,
kind of,
okay.
or my pressure,
Yeah.
my proposal. In the meantime, the Burke's property is no longer for sale. I think they had it listed for
Yeah.
a high price and for a while, and although there were some people who were interested, it never was consummated with a sale. It's complicated because there's family members that own the parcel together, and there's wetland concerns, so it's not
It's not,
easily developable. And when I raised this before the Community Preservation Committee, one of the members brought up, maybe we can put some affordable housing there. And again, I think that it was not a good candidate for dense housing because of the wetland issues and access. I think they have problems with access as well. So anyways, I thought it was an opportunity for the town to buy adjoining property to conservation property, but it's not in the cards right now.
okay.
Thanks for asking.
Charlie wins.
Okay, I think we're at that point. Where we're, right? We've been here long enough?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I would
I think
entertain a
We
motion.
can call it a day.
Move to,
I move to close the meeting tonight.
okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.